Well, howdy, shalom. Thanks for joining me. Hey, it is Sunday afternoon, October 5th, and I'm going to record our Bible lessons that are for this coming Sunday. This is, in case you're wondering, this is 2025. This video might actually last longer than the current times. Anyway, um, so I want to record the Bible lessons that will get us through the next few Sundays, because in our Sunday School Quarterly, which is the one called Explore the Bible, published by Lifeway, we're going through Numbers and Deuteronomy. So we're going to finish Numbers and this Sunday, and then go right on into Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy has so much in it, but it's going to last a while. We're going to get through November. At the end of November, we change quarterlies and we go to the Gospel of Matthew, which I think would be great. And I'm going to teach to that too as well. So here's what I want us to look at. If you have your Bibles, go to the book of Numbers, chapter 22. Numbers chapter 22. These next few chapters are fascinating to me. So chapter 22, chapter 23, chapter 24, all the way through to chapter 25, it is all about the story of Balaam and Balak. We call them Balaam and Balak. Now, we call them that because we're a bunch of Southerners, so Balaam is who we would call him. Balaam would be his actual Hebrew name in his language, and Balak, it would be the Hebrew word for Balak. So that's the two we go. So if you can remember where we are in the book of Numbers, the Israelites left slavery. That's the book of Exodus, chapter 13 and 14 and 15. They crossed the Red Sea. God parted the Red Sea. I always like to say, Charlton Heston raised up his stash, and the sea parted. Anyway, so they came to Mount Sinai and they camped at Mount Sinai for a year. And it's during this time that the rest of the half of the book of Exodus takes place. And that's where God gives the Ten Commandments. And then the book of Leviticus is given to Moses during this time. So Moses is busy writing down the law. In Hebrew, the word law is Torah, 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 which means the law. And you can use a Hebrew word called Torah, Torot, which is the plural for saying all the commands of God or all the laws of God. And now there's also another Jewish word. It's called mitzvah. Mitzvah. Mitzvah means command. And a mitzvot, V-O-T, M-I-T-Z-V-O-T, mitzvot means the commands, plural. So you may have heard of a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah. Bar mitzvah means a son of the commandment. Bat mitzvah means a daughter of the commandment. It's what a little Jewish boy or a little Jewish girl goes through when they cross over from being a child to an adult. So a boy will have a bar mitzvah, the girls will have a bat mitzvah. And what it means is the son of the command or daughter of the command. And so the mitzvah or the mitzvot is given to Moses. And he writes down the Torah, and he's writing it down. Now, the book of Numbers picks up with the end of that year, and now they're beginning their journey away from Sinai to go to the promised land. And they're supposed to begin to conquer the promised land. Only as you read in Numbers, we discover chapters 13 and 14, when they send out 12 men to reconnoiter the land, and they come back, and the 10 of the 12 say we can't do it. And so they refuse to believe God. They don't believe God. God then punishes them and says, you're going to spend 40 years wandering in the desert because of this. 1 year for each day that you reconnoitered the land. So you were there 40 days, so you're going to be out in the desert 40 years. And all of you who left Egypt, you're going to die here in the wilderness. And it's your children that are going to cross over into the land and take the land. And that was the punishment. Then, as you saw in the last few chapters that I recorded, Even Moses himself and Aaron both fell under the punishment of God, because at one point Moses was instructed to speak to a rock and water would come forth. Instead, Moses took his staff and hit that rock twice. God still honored it; the water came out, but it showed disrespect to God, disbelief to God, and that's the great punishment for Moses and Aaron. You too will not enter the promised land. And so that's kind of where we left off at the end of it. Now, oh yeah, we also I got to catch you up. So Israel is now on the eastern side of the Jordan River, and they are slowly making their way northward, and they are encountering different countries, different groups, and they've already had two battles, and they won. They won Sihon, and they won against a guy named Og. And so they've conquered their territory. They've begun to start to live in their cities. And there's another king that's in their eyesights, and this guy is named Balak, or Balak, as we like to call him that. And Balak looks out there at this massive group of people coming, and he says, "Man, we need some spiritual help." And so he knows about this guy that's a false prophet, and he goes and gets him, and his name is Balaam. Now, it's interesting, these names, Balak and Balaam, and I want you to get a kick out of this. There's a little note that I have here. Remember, I'm reading from the Complete Jewish Study Bible, which has some wonderful little notes in there. And there's an interesting play on the names, Balak. The name Balak literally means bird weight, which means he's like, he's got the gravitas, the weight, the power of a bird, his bird brain. He's got bird weight. He's just, that kind of guy. And then Balaam literally, this is really funny. Balaam literally means blooming idiot, stumbling oaf. So here is bird weight calling for blooming idiot to come and help him out. I just got a real kick out of those two names. And by the way, Balaam is from a place called Peor, and Peor literally means to die, to give up. So here is bird weight calling stumbling oaf from the place of to die, to give up, to come and curse Israel, put a spiritual curse on Israel. I just think it's funny, these names, these Hebrew names, and what they mean. So let's pick up Numbers 22. You ready for this? So the people of Israel traveled on and camped in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan River, opposite Jericho. So that's verse 1. So now they're on the banks, and they're across from the ancient city of Jericho. Now Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amori. Moab was very afraid of the people because there were so many of them. Moab was overcome with dread because of the people of Israel. So Moab said to the leaders of Midian, "This horde will lick up everything around us, the way an ox licks up grass in the field." So Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of Moab at the time. He sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Petor, by the Euphrates River in his native land, to tell him, "Listen, a people has come out of Egypt." By the way, he's up by the Euphrates River. That means he is up in the area that today would be near Mosul in northwest Iraq. And just a tad west of Mosul was where the ancient city Nineveh was, and it was on the river, the Euphrates. And so this is very likely where Beor is. He is probably dwelling in the area of ancient Nineveh. So this is a pretty good journey way up north to go fetch him and bring him back down. And Balak's goal is to get Balaam to come and put a spiritual curse on Israel so they can fight them and win. It's interesting that they had to come to a conclusion of that, because Israel's not particularly an experienced army. They've never really been an army. But what is interesting is they're winning battles against well-seasoned militaries and taking fortified cities These are the children, remember, that are doing this. These are not the adults. The adults were the ones that have died out now. And these are the children of those adults who said, we can't do it. These cities are too big. The people are too big, and we're too small. And now this is their children who are not a trained army, but they're beating armies that are trained, and they are taking fortified cities. The very thing their parents said you couldn't do, they're doing it. Very interesting. And so Balak recognizes, I have a trained army, but that apparently isn't good enough. Their God, called Yahweh, is stronger than our gods, plural. And so what we need is we need some spiritual help. We need somebody to come by and curse them so that our gods can fight this Yahweh, which means then that our army will defeat these Israelis. So that's what the setting is, and that's the understanding the cultural context of this battle. So you get the idea that, all right, so I may have spent too much time on that. That's all right, I do that all the time. All right, you ready? So therefore, he sends off to him, it says verse 6, he says, therefore, please come and curse this people for me, because they are stronger than I am. Maybe I will be able to strike them down and drive them out of the land, for I know that whomever you bless is in fact blessed, and whomever you curse is in fact cursed. So this is Balak saying that to Balaam, the false prophet. The leaders of Moab and Midian left, taking with them the payment for divining. In other words, they're coming with a bunch of money. And to Balaam, and they spoke to him the words of Balak, and he said, well, stay here tonight, and I will bring you back whatever answer Adonai tells me. So the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam. Now, in the Hebrew, they use the word Yahweh, which is the actual name of God. When they translate it into these English translations, they will substitute the word Adonai, because they believe saying the personal name of God, you might run the risk of profaning that name, or taking that name lightly. And so Jews will deliberately not say the name of God. In fact, when they write it down, they'll write capital G dash D. They won't even spell the name G-O-D with a capital G. How about that? But they have that in such respect. So, and it's interesting to me that Balaam, who is a false prophet, knows Yahweh. Think on that for a minute. It's also fascinating to me that, he knows which God he's supposed to divine from. That's interesting. Now, it's interesting. The rest of the Old Testament spends a lot of time condemning things like divination, necromancy, spirits, mediums, spirit guides, and astrology. And all of these kinds of arts like that. And it's interesting because it doesn't say it doesn't work. Yeah. But what it says is you're not really talking to God. You're talking to demons who are masquerading as God. Think about that for a minute. So here is Balaam. And he says, I'm going to spend the night and I'll talk to Adonai, and I'll see what he's got to say about that. So, and then it says, this is very interesting, God came to Balaam and said, this is verse 9, God came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? Balaam said to God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent me this message. The people who came out of Egypt have spread over the land. Now come and curse them for me. Maybe I will be able to fight against them and drive them out. God answered Balaam, you are not to go with them. You are not to curse the people, because they are blessed. So that's a powerful statement, by the way. You ever wonder why we Christians should support Israel? Why do you think? The Bible says, I have blessed them. And you know what, brothers and sisters? If you want to obey God, you need to bless them too. Just saying. Yes, you are free to disagree with me, but I think based on Scripture, it's important to know that God said, I've blessed Israel. Okay? All right, then, Balaam got up in the morning and said to the princes of Balak, return to your own land, because Adonai refuses to give me permission to go with you. The princes of Moab got up, returned to Balak, and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. Balak, now this is interesting, Balak doesn't give up. Balak sent princes, more of them and of higher status than the first group. They went to Balaam and said to him, well, here's what Balak the son of Zippor says. Please don't let anything keep you from coming to me. I will reward you very well. And whatever you say to me, I will do. So please come and curse this people for me. Balaam answered the servants of Balak, even if Balak were to give me his palace filled with silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the word of Adonai my God to do anything great or small. Now, by the way, Balaam identified Adonai as my God. I've come across quite a few people in my years who are spiritists. They get in touch with the dead, and they tell you messages from the dead, or they're tarot card readers, or they're fortune tellers, and they will predict your future. And they all claim to know God. So did Balaam, a false prophet. He claimed to know God too. And by the way, God did talk to him. That is important to note that. All right, but watch what happens. Even if Balak gave it, so now verse 19. Now please, you too, stay here tonight, so that I may find out what else Adonai will say to me. And God came to Balaam during the night and said to him, if the men have come to summon you, get up and go with them, but do only what I tell you. I think that's interesting. God said, all right, go ahead and go. You know, there's a lot of money in this. Balaam is, looking at this giant sum of money. And by the way, there's a lot of prestige and a lot of honor, Here's a king hiring you, and he's desperate for you to come. He likes what you do. All right, so here's Balaam. Got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the princes of Moab. Oh, boy, this is where the story gets good here. But God's anger flared up because he went. That's an interesting statement, don't you think? God's anger flared up because he went. God said, you can go. What do you think Balaam should have said? No, you blessed him. I'm not going to do that. He could have done that. But no, he looked at the pile of money and the prestige and said, yeah, sure, I'll go. Yeah. But God said, you better tell him only what I tell you. And so here is God's anger flared up because he went, and the angel of Adonai stationed himself on the path to bar his way. He was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. Now this is verse 23. The donkey saw the angel of Adonai standing on the road, drawn sword in hand, so the donkey turned off the road into the field. The donkey sees this angel with a sword in his hand, and Balaam doesn't see it. And Balaam... the donkey turned off the road, and Balaam had to beat the donkey to get it back on the road. The donkey sees the angel. Balaam, who's supposed to be a prophet, doesn't see it. And then the angel of Adonai stood on the road where it became narrow as it passed among the vineyards and had stone walls on both sides. The donkey saw the angel of Adonai, again the donkey sees it, and pushed up against the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against the wall. So he beat it again. The angel of Adonai moved ahead and stood in a place so tight that there was no room to turn either right or left. And again the donkey saw the angel of Adonai and lay down under Balaam, which made him so angry that he hit the donkey with his stick. But Adonai enabled the donkey to speak. There's a miracle. Adonai enabled the donkey to speak, and it says to Balaam, what have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times? Balaam just answers the donkey. He doesn't stand back and go, whoa, wait a minute, my donkey's talking. He didn't say that. I think that's interesting. Balaam might be involved in all kinds of stuff that a donkey talking to him might not be too unusual. And when you get involved in the satanic and the demonic and the black arts and the demonic arts and all this kind of stuff, you see some stuff. You sure do. So here is Balaam talking to his donkey. And his donkey said, so Balaam says, it's because you've been making a fool of me. I wish I had a sword in my hand. I would kill you on the spot. And the donkey says to Balaam, I'm your donkey, right? You've ridden me all your life, right? Have I ever treated you like this before? No, he admitted. Then Adonai opened Balaam's eyes so that he could see the angel of Adonai standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed his head and fell on his face. Yeah, pay attention to that. He might have seen some wild, weird stuff, and all this satanic and demonic stuff with spiritism and divination and all that stuff. But when he sees a real angel of God with a sword in his hand, he has only one reaction: falls down on his face. The angel of Adonai said to him, "Why did you hit your donkey 3 times like that? I've come out here to bar your way because you are rushing to oppose me." Did you catch that? When you oppose Israel, who are you really opposing? Yeah, think on that. The donkey saw me and turned aside 3 times, and indeed, if she hadn't turned away from me, I would have killed you by now and saved it alive. Balaam says to the angel of Adonai, "I have sinned. I didn't know that you were standing on the road to block me. Now, therefore, if what I am doing displeases you, I will go back." But the angel of Adonai said to Balaam, "Now," he said, "no, go on with the men, but you are to say only what I tell you to say." So Balaam went along with the princes of Balak. That is a fascinating thing right there. I think what the Lord was doing was impressing upon Balaam just how serious this is. You don't just go up there because you're getting a pile of money. You're up there to do a duty, and I'm going to tell you what to say. You claim to be speaking for me? You claim to be my prophet? All right. I'll give you what to say, but you better say only what I tell you to say. And that's what he did. All right, now I'm going to cut this one short because it's already longer than I thought. I spent too much time in an introduction. So the next video, we're going to pick up where I left off.